The mining station's alarm klaxons screamed through the corridors as Kareem sprinted toward the evacuation pods. Red emergency lighting bathed everything in an ominous glow, and the deck plates vibrated beneath his boots from the cascading system, failures rippling through Kepler Station. "All personnel to emergency stations," the automated voice echoed off the metal walls. "Hull breach in sectors 7 through 9. Atmospheric integrity compromised." Kareem had been through dozens of emergency drills, but this wasn't practice. The Zephyrian raiders had struck without warning, their plasma cannons tearing through the station's outer hull like tissue paper. Now half the mining complex was venting atmosphere into the void, and everyone was running for their lives. He rounded the corner toward Pod Bay C when he heard it, a sound that made his blood freeze. Someone was crying, and it wasn't human. The corridor ahead was partially collapsed, debris scattered across the floor. Emergency foam had sealed most of the breaches, but twisted metal jutted from the walls at dangerous angles. And there, trapped beneath a fallen support beam, was a Zephyrian girl. Kareem had seen Zephyrians before. They were common on the outer rim stations. This one looked young, maybe equivalent to a human teenager. Her pale blue skin had darker striations that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, and her large, silver eyes were wide with terror. She was bleeding from cuts on her arms, the fluid a strange purple color that seemed to shimmer. "Help me," she whispered in accented standard. "Please." Every instinct screamed at Kareem to keep running. The evacuation pods would launch soon, with or without him. The Zephyrians were the enemy here. Their raiders had attacked first. Logic dictated he should save himself. But looking into those silver eyes, Kareem saw something that transcended species. Pure, desperate fear. "What's your name?" he asked, already moving toward her. "Selin," she gasped. "Okay, Selin, I'm Kareem. I'm going to get you out of here." He examined the beam pinning her legs. It was heavy, too heavy for him to lift alone. But there was a maintenance jack nearby, knocked loose from its mounting during the attack. If he could position it right. "The evacuation pods," Selin started. "We'll make it," Kareem said, though he wasn't sure he believed it himself. He worked frantically with the jack, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cold air rushing through the damaged sections. The station shuddered again as another section decompressed somewhere in the distance. "Why are you helping me?" Selin asked quietly. "My people, they attacked your station." Kareem paused in his work to look at her. "You didn't attack anyone. You're just a kid caught in the wrong place." Something shifted in her expression, surprise, maybe even gratitude. Most humans wouldn't. The words were cut off by a violent tremor that ran through the deck. Warning lights flashed, and a new alarm joined the cacophony. "Critical system failure in Sector 6, the automated voice announced. "Recommend immediate evacuation." That was where the main reactor was housed. If it went, the whole station would be vaporized in seconds. Kareem redoubled his efforts with the jack. The beam shifted slightly, and Selin cried out in pain as the movement jarred her injured legs. "Almost there," he muttered. The beam lifted enough for her to pull free. She tried to stand but collapsed immediately, her legs unable to support her weight. "I can't walk," she whispered, panic creeping into her voice. Without hesitation, Kareem scooped her up in his arms. She was lighter than he expected, her bone structure more delicate than human physiology. Her bioluminescent patterns flickered weakly, a sign of extreme stress he'd heard. They made it 50 meters down the corridor before the explosion. Later, the investigators would determine that a plasma conduit had ruptured in the reactor housing. The blast tore through 3 decks and sent a shockwave racing through the station's superstructure. But in that moment, all Kareem knew was the terrible sound of rending metal and the white-hot fragments of shrapnel flying toward them. Time seemed to slow. He saw the jagged pieces of heated metal spinning through the air, saw exactly where they would strike. Selin was looking back over his shoulder, her silver eyes reflecting the flames. She would take the brunt of it. Kareem twisted, putting his own body between her and the explosion. The shrapnel tore into his back and shoulders like a dozen burning knives. He felt ribs crack, felt the hot metal puncture skin and muscle. but he held on to Seelan as they were thrown forward by the blast wave, his body absorbing the impact that would have killed her. They hit the deck hard and slid several meters, before coming to rest against a bulkhead. Kareem's vision blurred, but he could feel warm liquid spreading beneath him, his own blood mixing with the strange purple fluid from Seelan's earlier injuries. "Kareem!" Her voice seemed to come from very far away. "Kareem, stay with me!" He tried to respond, but darkness was creeping in from the edges of his vision. The last thing he remembered was her cool hand touching his face, and the soft glow of her bioluminescent patterns pulsing in what almost looked like a rhythm of mourning. When Kareem finally awoke, he expected to see the sterile white walls of a medical bay, or perhaps nothing at all if his injuries had been fatal. Instead, he found himself lying in a room unlike anything he'd ever seen. The walls were smooth and organic-looking, with a pearl-like sheen that shifted between colors as he watched. Soft, natural light emanated from crystalline formations embedded in the ceiling. The air smelled of flowers and ozone, and he could hear what sounded like distant singing. Multiple voices harmonizing in no language he recognized. "You're awake." Seelan's voice drew his attention to the left, where she sat in what appeared to be a chair grown from the same organic material as the walls. Her injuries were healed, and her bioluminescent patterns were glowing steadily with warm golden hues. "Where are we?" Kareem asked, surprised to find his voice clear and strong. He sat up carefully, expecting pain from his injuries, but felt none. Looking down, he saw his torso wrapped in some kind of translucent membrane that pulsed gently with healing energy. "The Zephyrian medical ship Harmony of Depths," Seelan replied. "You've been unconscious for 6 days." "Medical ship? But your people attacked the station." "Not my people," she interrupted softly. "Raiders. Pirates. They're no more representative of Zephyrians than human criminals represent all of humanity." She stood and moved closer to his bedside. When the real Zephyrian fleet arrived and saw what had happened, they were horrified, especially when they learned what you did. Kareem frowned. "What I did?" "You saved me," Seelan said simply. "A human risked his life, gave his life, we thought, to save a Zephyrian stranger. When my people found us, when they saw your injuries." She paused, her patterns shifting to deeper blues. They had never seen such selflessness between species. Through the translucent wall, Kareem could see into the corridor beyond. It was filled with Zephyrians, dozens of them, all standing quietly, their bioluminescent patterns synchronized in slow, rhythmic waves. "They're singing," Seelan explained, following his gaze. "It's a traditional healing song, but they've adapted it. They're singing for you, Kareem, for a human who showed them that courage and compassion transcend species barriers." As if responding to her words, the song grew slightly louder, and Kareem felt a strange warmth spread through his chest. Not physical, but something deeper. "The Council of Depths has declared you Veltar Nethai," Seelan continued. "It translates roughly to bridge between stars. You're the first human ever to receive the honor." Kareem stared at the assembled Zephyrians, overwhelmed. He had acted on instinct, doing what felt right in the moment. He had never expected this, had never imagined that a single act of human decency could have such far-reaching consequences. "What happens now?" he asked. Seelan's patterns brightened to warm golds and gentle greens, colors he was beginning to associate with joy and hope. "Now," she said, "we go home. Both of our peoples have much to learn from each other, and you, Kareem of Earth, will help us build that bridge." Outside, the singing continued, carried on voices that spoke of a future where the space between stars was measured not in light years, but in understanding.